Hey guys, this is Nick with Small Engine Wizard, and today we're going to review the Oregon 410-120 chainsaw grinder or sharpener if you prefer. So we're going to go over a little bit of everything. This is going to be a quick and sweet and short review, and we're going to try and cover a little bit of everything on this machine, how it mounts, how it came out of the box. We're going to do that, and let's dive on in. So the first thing I will mention, if you are still grinding chains with these aluminum oxide wheels, you are in the past. You are no longer in the 2000s, you are in the 80s. So throw these away. These are absolutely garbage. So I got this CBN wheel from this company called Diamond Wheel Incorporated, and this wheel is awesome. Basically what goes on here is a CBN wheel transfers all the heat from the cutter on the chain. It transfers it into the wheel, so we don't get heat buildup on the cutter, which is very important. These, they transfer all the heat into the cutter rather than soaking up any heat into the stone because, well, it's stone. So I tried sharpening with these. I was just having all sorts of problems. I can sharpen a chain in half the amount of time with one of these CBN wheels rather than using one of these. What I would say definitely is when you go to order one of these, I wouldn't even think about it. I would just order one of those wheels with it. And you can find them online. They're like a little over $100 depending on what wheel size you want. And they do actually work extremely well. So out of the box, we have our motor assembly, we have our base assembly, we have a couple different knobs that go in a couple different places. We'll go over all that. To put this thing together, it really wasn't much. No, it comes with our little booklet here that they give you. It comes with our wheels. 3 of them. We got one for our rakers. We got an 1/8 inch. We got a 3/16. Comes with 2 Allen keys. Comes with a dressing brick. Comes with this nice fancy little grinding wheel chart. It comes with a little depth gauge on here. This allows us to do our depth. It tells us what size chain we have, what size pitch chain we have, and that's everything that's in the box. So coming a little bit closer in on this unit, basically what we have here, we have our clamp, works very well. We have our stop adjustment. We have our adjustment for our stop depending on where the cutter is, left hand, right hand cutters. We have our top plate cutting angle between 0 degrees, 35 degrees. Tighten that up. We also have the option to do our filing angle back and forth. We have our depth of cut adjustment right here. And we have our top plate filing angle from 90 degrees to 40 degrees. So on our filing angle, we have adjustment. We have 90 degrees. We can go up to 40 degrees. You cannot go past. It does not let you. We have maybe, 39 degrees maybe we can go to. And what else do we have? We have maybe 91 degrees we can make it to. But that's going to be unnecessary. Never have I seen a chain past, I believe, 80 or, lower than 40. So I think this really is going to work well. And I have never come across something that I couldn't fit in this range. Maybe there's something out there. I don't know. But in this one, these numbers are really going to work just fine. So one of my biggest concerns is with the Harbor Freight sharpener, that when I had that one, what was happening is that there was a lot of play in the head, which isn't good. You can't really get the angle correct. You can never get a sharp chain with that. What I had to do is I had to hold it to one side and I had to almost jam it into the chain sideways in order to get a good angle. With this one, it's not the case. So this one, we really don't have much play. The only reason you're seeing play here is because I'm forcing it. That was my biggest thing. I'm sure a lot of you guys are really kind of concerned about that also. So that's why I wanted to go over that. Don't worry about it. It is not an issue with this unit. So here we have our top plate filing angle. We have from 0, we have up to 35 degrees for right hand or for left hand cutters. So one of the problems I was having with the Harbor Freight jammy is if I would set it to say, 30 degrees for our right hand cutters, I would switch it to 35 degrees for our left hand cutters, and it wasn't really holding angle consistently. I could tell, where it, maybe 35 degrees on one, it might cut it at 32.5 on the right, or it would be vice versa on the left. So that's definitely a big issue. Depending on who you're cutting chains for, depending on what you're trying to do with chains, different angles can definitely make the saw walk depending on what you're cutting, how soft the wood you're cutting, how hard a wood you're cutting. So that is definitely a big no-no in chainsaw sharpening. So this one does it very good. This one gets down to the point, and this one does hold an angle very nice. So as far as our file guide angle, this does allow us to do 10 degrees for our left-hand cutters or 10 degrees for our right-hand cutters. Depending on the chain you're sharpening, that is very important. And this does do a very good job of holding angle. So we have our clamp. Our clamp does work good. I watched a couple reviews before I bought this. A lot of guys were saying that it doesn't clamp down very well. Maybe after doing a lot of chains, it will. Probably only done about 20 chains on this sharpener so far, for as long as I've had it. I've only had it for, maybe 3-4 weeks or so, if that. But we will see exactly what happens over time. I will update this if it does start to happen. But as of right now, it does actually hold it very nicely. I don't have an issue with it. I think what a lot of guys were doing is they were really jamming the wheel down into the cutter, so that was making it come loose. But with a couple light cuts, you don't really get that. And I did notice if I was trying to take a larger cut, that it might kick the chain up just a little bit. But if we're taking light enough cuts, it's not going to happen. We want to take light cuts because if we don't, we're going to overheat the cutter, which is not what we want to do. We want to do a couple smooth cuts. Even if you have to go around the chain 2 or 3 times, that's what you want. I would say A+. She don't move. So we do have our depth of cut knob back here. You can go deeper, or you can make it a little bit more shallow depending on what you need. It does also have a locking screw, which is very nice. And then it has our adjustment knob right here. So depending on where you need to go, that does it. It does keep it in the right spot. This knob does seem to be true all the way around. So if you turn it a little bit, it doesn't really change your position that much. So I do like that. Whereas, if you have something that's untrue, you might go to loosen it and, your cutting depth might go a little bit deeper instead of a little bit higher, which is definitely an issue. You definitely don't want that, which with the Harbor Freight cutter, that was an issue. It wasn't true. So if you would go to loosen it or you would go to tighten it, it would kind of do the opposite unless you got to the sweet spot on the knob. So definitely good on this one. This one I am impressed with. Doesn't loosen up on you. Works very good. Okay, so now here we have our chain stop. We have our adjustment for that. Once again, very true. Doesn't do that whole wonky thing where if you turn it a little bit the one way, it kind of goes the opposite. No, it doesn't do any of that. That works very well. It stays locked nice. If you have this just in the right spot, you don't even have to loosen the locking knob in order to get our chain back to where we need to go. We do have our adjustment for depending on if you're cutting right hand or left hand cutters. So the chain stop is in the correct spot. So this does not come with mounting bolts depending on where you're going to mount it. It does have mounts in the back if you want to put it on the wall, or it does have mounts in the bottom if you want to put it on the table. So another thing is that this on-off button can be a little bit finicky sometimes. It seems that right when I got it, you weren't able to just kind of, hit the on button. You kind of had to really jam it with your finger. But now that I've used it a couple times, it seems like it just kind of, goes on. It does its thing, pretty nicely. So that isn't really a concern. What I did notice is that there were a couple guys saying that, it might not have enough power, this, that, the other thing. This unit has plenty of power. I didn't go with the 520 because I thought it was a little bit more money than I wanted to spend on a chainsaw sharpener rather. So I didn't go with that. So I went with this one and I'm very happy I did. This one does everything I needed to do. This one just works very well. I can't really complain. This unit has plenty of power for what we're doing here. If you maybe take huge cuts out of your chain, maybe you want a little bit more power. But for what we're doing here, we do a couple light cuts and we're good to go. It's not absurd to have to go around your chain a couple times. So I think that with this amount of power on this unit, with this wheel, it actually does work very well. We don't have to worry about it being underpowered. If it is underpowered, then you're really jamming the wheel into the chain a lot harder than you're supposed to be. And that's where you get your overheating issues. So I will say all in all, this is a solid unit. I do like it. I am happy with the purchase. I would buy it again if it breaks. I wouldn't really consider upgrading unless I, started doing, a whole bunch of chains. I don't sharpen that many chains, but I do enough that I did need a better machine than the Harbor Freight one. So that is why I went with this, and I am very happy I did. So if you guys liked the video, please subscribe, hit that like button, and we will continue doing more videos like this. And thanks, everybody.